the most emotionally aware generation. They can name their trauma by the age of 12. They understand mental health terminology better than most adults. They'll tell you they have anxiety, depression, or ADHD with the same ease previous generations said they had a cold. But here's the paradox. Gen Z and Gen Alpha are the most emotionally aware generation in history and also the most emotionally dysregulated. They know the language of therapy. They don't always know how to actually feel their feelings. They can identify toxic behavior. They struggle to navigate conflict. They advocate for mental health, but they are drowning in anxiety. Emotionally aware generation. They can name their trauma by the age of 12. They understand mental health terminology better than most adults. They'll tell you they have anxiety, depression, or ADHD with the same ease previous generations said they had a cold. But here's the paradox. Gen Z and Gen Alpha are the most emotionally aware generation in history and also the most emotionally dysregulated. They know the language of therapy. They don't always know how to actually feel their feelings. They can identify toxic behavior. They struggle to navigate conflict. They advocate for mental health, but they are drowning in anxiety. And if you're an educator trying to teach them, you have probably noticed that traditional methods are not really working anymore. Today, we're going to talk about what this generation actually needs from us and why the future of education depends on whether we are willing to give it to them. If you've ever felt like you're speaking a different language than your student, then this conversation is for you. So welcome to the Learning Associate Network, where we partner with teachers and schools in instructional coaching, edtech solutions, and research and policy advisory service. Let's start with something that confuses a lot of educators: the emotional literacy gap. Gen Z and Gen Alpha have incredible emotional vocabulary. They can tell you, I am triggered, that's gaslighting, I'm having a panic attack, I need to set boundaries. This is giving me trauma. Those are the things they say, and they mean it. They're not making it up. This generation has the language of emotional intelligence and often lack the capacity for emotional regulation. Here is why. They've learned emotional vocabulary from, number one, TikTok therapists who give 60 seconds explanations of complex concepts. Instagram infographics that reduces trauma to bullet points. YouTube videos that diagnose condition without nuance. Online communities that validate feelings without teaching coping skills. Now, don't get me wrong, accessibility to mental health language is good, but there's a difference between knowing the word anxiety and knowing how to ground yourself during a panic attack. There's also a difference between identifying toxic behavior and having skills to address it. And there's also a difference between saying I'm triggered and actually processing what triggered you. They can name what is wrong with them, but they don't always know how to make it right. And this creates a unique challenge for educators. You have students who would say, I can't do this assignment, I'm too anxious, but they haven't learned anxiety management strategies. You have students who will say, this feedback is triggering, but can't distinguish between discomfort and actual harm. You also have students who will say, oh, I need a mental health day, but they use that day to scroll on social media instead of resting. And you are thinking, are these people manipulating me? How do I support them without enabling them? They are actually not manipulating you. They are trying to survive with a vocabulary they understand, but skills they were never taught. And this is the gap, and filling it is on us. Now, let's talk about the three things defining this generation's experience. They are attention, anxiety, and connection. First of all, let's talk about attention. Gen Z and Gen Alpha have been raised in an attention economy. Their brains have been literally rewired by algorithms designed to hijack focus, notifications engineered to create dopamine loops, content optimized for 8-second consumption, and multitasking normalized as productivity. They are not choosing distraction. Their nervous systems have been trained for it. When you assign a 20-page reading, you are not competing with their willpower. You are competing with billions of dollars of neuroscience-backed design meant to keep them scrolling. It is not that they can't focus. is that they have been systematically taught not to. The second thing is anxiety. This generation has grown with school shooting as routine drills, climate crisis as their inheritance, economic instability as their normal, pandemic isolation during critical developmental years, social media comparison as constant background noise, and an uncertain future presented as guaranteed. They are responding appropriately to genuinely threatening circumstances. And here's what we miss. The anxiety is not always about your test. Sometimes your test is just that thing they can control when every other thing. They don't need another application. They need another human who sees them, not their screen time. And this is where you come in as an educator, because your classroom might be the only place where they are seen as whole humans, not engagement metrics. They practice real-time human interaction. They experience consistency in a chaotic world. They learn that relationship can exist without performance. They need you to be the human with them, not perfect, but just human. So here's the shift we need to make. Teaching humans before content. I know you're thinking, but I have standards to meet, there are curriculums to cover, test scores to maintain. I hear you. And I'm not saying content doesn't matter, but I'm saying that if students don't feel safe, sane, and stable, content won't stick anyways. You can have the best lesson plan in the world, but if your students' nervous systems are in survival mode, their brain literally cannot access higher order thinking. This is neuroscience, and this is not an opinion. When students are anxious about safety, which is basically physical and emotional safety, if they're worried about belonging, if they're unsure if they matter, if they're dysregulated in their nervous system, their brain prioritizes survival over learning. So, teaching humans first means you are creating safety by having predictable routines, giving clear expectations, emotional consistency from you, spaces where mistakes are learning, not failure. So teaching humans also means building emotional connection, learning their names and using them, asking about their lives, not just their homework, showing up as authentic, not authoritative, and letting them see you are human too. Another way you can connect with them as humans is validating their reality, acknowledging that the world is genuinely hard right now. Not dismissing their feelings as oversensitive, but teaching them also regulation tools and not just telling them to calm down. Meeting them where they are, not where the curriculum say they should be. Students don't learn from people they don't trust. And Gen Z and Gen Alpha won't trust you until you prove to see them as humans, not as data points. I want to pause here for a moment, because what we're discussing is exactly why we have created structured learning spaces at the Learning Associate Network. Many educators know something is wrong, but they don't always have the language, the tools, or support to adapt and move forward. Our courses are designed to help you build emotional intelligence in your teaching practice, to navigate the realities of teaching in an AI integrated world, and to help you confidently educate Gen Z and Gen Alpha with the tools they actually need in life. We offer two powerful courses. We offer Emotional Intelligence in Education, which is designed to help educators develop AI-driven pedagogy that creates emotionally safe, regulated learning environments where students can actually learn. We also have a course called Teaching in the Age of Generative AI. This is curated for educators who need to understand how AI is reshaping learning, attention, and what students need from human teachers in an increasingly automated world. We also have other courses around healing from trauma for educators and also for non-educators. All of these courses provide practical frameworks, research-backed strategies, and community support to help you teach the generation in front of you, not the one you were trained for. I'll share more about these courses at the end of this video, so let's keep going. So what does AI-driven pedagogy actually look like in practice? It is not a touchy feeling. It is not lowering standards. It is teaching in alignment with how humans actually learn. AI-driven pedagogy means, number one, regulation before instruction. Before you teach fractions or Shakespeare, or you teach engineering, or you teach mathematics, or you teach law, I want you to teach how to notice when you are dysregulated. I want you to teach simple breathing techniques. I want you to teach how to ask for a break without shaming. I want you to teach that emotions are information, not interruptions. When students know how to regulate, they can access learning. The other thing I want you to teach is relationship as curriculum. Your relationship with students is not separate from teaching. It is also part of teaching. When students feel safe with you, they take intellectual risk. When they feel seen by you, they engage authentically. When they feel respected by you, they respect the learning process. Content without connection is just information. Connection transforms information into education. I'll say that again. Connection transforms information into education. The third thing is flexibility as rigor. You must teach that. Real rigor isn't rigid deadlines and one-size-fits-all assignments. Real rigor is high expectations plus high support, challenge plus compassion, accountability plus understanding, standards that stretch students without breaking them. Gen Z and Gen Alpha don't need you to be easier, they need you to be more human. And the fourth thing I want you to understand is that teaching with technology, not against it. They are going to use AI. They are going to have ChatGPT write their essays if you don't give them better reasons to write. So instead of banning it, teach them how to use it ethically. Show them what AI can't do. For example, AI can think critically, feel deeply, connect authentically. Design assignments that require humanity, not just information regurgitation. And help them understand that AI is a tool, not a replacement for their own thinking. The question isn't whether the student will use AI, it is whether we will teach them to use it wisely or watch them use it mindlessly. Here's what happens when you teach it this way. For students, they show up more consistently because they feel safe. They engage more deeply because they are regulated. They learn more effectively because their brains aren't in survival mode. They developed actual emotional intelligence, not emotional vocabulary. And for educators, you experience less burnout because you are working with nervous systems, not against them. You build authentic relationships that make teaching joyful again. You create a classroom culture where learning actually happens, and then you become this educator that this generation desperately needs. So here's what I need you to understand. Gen Z and Gen Alpha are not broken. They're not lazy. They are not too sensitive. They are the most emotionally aware generation in history, growing up in the most emotionally complex time in history, and they need educators who can meet them there. They need safety, they need connection, they need adults who see their humanity before their productivity. And you can be that educator, not because you're perfect, but because you're willing. The future of education is not about better technology or stricter standards. It is about human teachers showing up for more human students. And we want to help you do exactly that. The link to join our community is in the comment section below. At the Learning Associate Network, we've created a safe space for educators, teachers, professors, pastors, Sunday school teachers, lecturers, instructors, coaches to connect, to grow, and be refreshed. A community where you learn how to teach with emotional intelligence, you're equipped to navigate AI in education, you are supported in becoming the educator Gen Z and Gen Alpha actually need. You are not alone in the massive cultural shift. When you join, you get access to emotional intelligence in education. You learn EI pedagogy that transforms your classroom. You navigate the AI revolution with confidence and clarity. You have a community of educators committed to teaching humans and not just content. You have tools, strategies, and support for the classroom you have, not the one you wish to have. All right. They need safety. You need support. We are here for both. The link is in the comment section. The community is waiting. Let's transform education together, one human connection at a time. Remember, Gen Z don't need perfect educators. They need present ones. Join us at TLAN. Let's build the future of education together.